Good morning or good afternoon, good evening. My name is Jenny Draeger. I am a training services consultant here at Ex Libris. This is the Implementing Acquisitions in Alma series. We are currently in the third session of the series. Today, we're going to be going over activating electronic and physical resources. This next slide you've seen already. It's just talking about the series, who we wrote it for. I'm not going over the absolute basics about screen layout and stuff, just because we intended that most of you are already live on Alma and just not using AC, and we want to, see if this is a good solution for you. Okay, so our topic again, activating electronic resources, and then we'll be receiving physical resources. This is the agenda we're going to be working through, talking about basic workflow and operator roles. Moving on to tasks, how Alma is using tasks to tell you to activate your electronic resources. Again, Alma's doing that work for you. It's raising a flag and saying, hey, pay attention to this, take care of this. Alma is designed like that all over the place. If something needs your attention, it'll make a task for you. So you're not having to go look for things to do. Let Alma tell you what you need to do. Then we'll move into actually activating electronic resources, single portfolios, and then electronic collections. Then we'll move down into physical resources. We'll receive one-time orders and continuous orders, and we'll talk about how standing orders work. Move on to claims, and then resources. The resources, they're the links to the documentation, the LibGuides, etc. So let's move through our agenda. Our first topic is workflow and operator roles. So this is the workflow, and you've seen this slide before. This week we're on down here in the bottom right, receive physical or activate electronic resources. So that's where we are in our workflow. We've created our purchase order lines, packaged them up into purchase orders, sent them off to the vendors. Now materials are coming in, or we're being told, hey, turn this on for those electronic resources for our users. There are specific roles related to acquisitions. Related to activating and receiving. And that Word doc I created, remember, I got to put this in order of workflow. And so if you scroll down, this was purchase orders, which we did last week. Now we're activating electronic inventory. We're receiving physical inventory. Now this is just a selection of user roles. The entire list of user roles is at this link right here. And remember, you could always just go to Google and search Alma user roles, and you're going to get the link to that as well. I'm sorry, when I leave that little window, I lose my chat window. So I don't want to do that too much. I don't want to get out of there. Okay. So the next couple slides talk about roles in particular. When we're talking about activating electronic resources, there's the electronic inventory operator role. You may also need to add the electronic inventory operator extended role. So the extended roles, any roles that have extended in the name, only allow deletion of electronic inventory. So if someone can only add or edit, you just give them the electronic inventory operator role. If they also need to have the power to delete, also add the electronic inventory operator extended role. You would need to have both of them. One, like extended, doesn't have all the rights and privileges of the standard operator role. That's how Alma was designed in all roles that have extended. We also have another role related to the CDI, the Central Discovery Index. So the Central Inventory Operator, that adds the option to set the CDI search activation while you're activating your electronic resources. So you want to give that to those same people that are activating, so your electronic inventory operators. You probably want to give them that CDI inventory operator role as well. Remember, when we talk about workflows, anything like that, you need to design a workflow that works for your institution. You do have some options, and We want you to take advantage of Alma's functionality, but also make it work with what is important, your policies and procedures at your institution. Now, that's not to say I wouldn't challenge if you just try to do things the way you used to do them. I'm going to challenge you every time and say, why are you doing this? Why are you doing this? Let's look at why you're doing this and make a better workflow instead of just replicating whatever you've done in a previous system. When we talk about receiving physical resources, there's the receiving operator and then receiving operator limited. So the receiving operator limited, it doesn't have the power of editing PO lines or changing item information. So maybe if you have students working and receiving materials, you want to just give them that limited role, or maybe depending on training that they've had and they understand what their clicks and choices make, that you would give them that receiving operator role. Whatever works best at your library. And both of those roles do require the assignment of a service unit, so they can't just receive items. If you are an institution in Alma with multiple libraries that has multiple ACT departments, that service unit keeps everyone in their lane, if you will. If I, when you set me as a receiving operator, you assign me to that desk, that receiving desk where I can do that work. Remember my rules. Let Alma do the work for you and don't make things more complicated than they need to be. I'm going to show you some options. I'm going to talk about how they can help you out, but if you don't need them, don't turn them on. Don't complicate your workflow. I'm keeping an eye on the chat here too in the window as well. So I want to let you know I am watching out for that. Our next topic is e-resource activation tasks. Now, if you've been working in Alma, you are familiar with tasks. You are familiar with the tasks widget, I hope. And if you don't have this turned on your Alma home screen, please turn it on, because any tasks that show up in here are related to your roles. Now, under the electronic resources subject area, that's where you would see these activation tasks. If you let Alma do what Alma wants to do, when you purchase an electronic resource, Alma's going to make that activation task. Alma's going to tell you, you need to turn this on. You have to take a step for Alma to not create that task, and let Alma do it. Let Alma do the work it was designed to do. Another way you can access your tasks is up in the top right corner, that little, it looks like a clipboard with a check mark on front of it. If you click on that menu, you'll also see a task menu, and I collapsed those others to save a little screen space, but you'll see they're both the same. It's just two different places to access that information. Now, where do the activation dates, notice, some of these activation assigned to you activation past due date, so they should have been activated. It's essentially a claim. Hey, turn this on. It's past due when you said you would turn this on. And then past due date unassigned and activation unassigned. So those past due dates, where do those come from? The activation dates actually come from the purchase order line in the vendor information section. And so typically, when you create a purchase order line, you associate a vendor account with that PO line, and that vendor account, if you have filled in expected activation after ordering days or e-activation due after ordering days, these will be populated when you add that, when you associate the vendor account with the PO line. That's where the data comes from. If you have manually entered in an expected activation date on the PO line, this will override these dates over here. Alma will look at this first. When you work on a task, the activation task, so when this works the way that other Alma task lists do, when everything is new, it gets put onto an unassigned tab. And if you go in and start working on a task, it moves it to the assigned to me tab. Now, depending on your roles, you can click on these row action menus. You can release you can release this and it'll go back to unassigned. You may have the role that would allow you to assign this to other people. You also, depending on your roles, may have the ability to see tasks that are assigned to others and release them back to unassigned or assign them to another staff member. So those are all capabilities in Alma if you have the appropriate roles. When we talk about activation tasks, there is a list up here of statuses. And I don't know if this is what yours looks like out of the box or not. But so here's a list: check access, not yet online, access confirmed, proxy confirmed. The functionality behind this list is, I would ask you, do you have certain steps you go through, maybe a set of checks that you go through as you activate an electronic resource, such as making sure the link works, making sure the proxy is set correctly, making sure it shows in discovery? If you have a set of steps, that is where you can come in here and customize this list. And so when an activation task gets created, maybe it's going to start with check access. It'll give this first one in the line in the list, and as I do my step, I might move it to not yet online, or if I do confirm, hey, I did find it, access is confirmed, I can change the status of the task list to confirmed. And I may not have the maybe I haven't, someone else checks the proxy, or maybe I do and I'm going to do it tomorrow. But you can make this list of statuses make sense to your team, so you know you've done everything when you activate an electronic resource. So where you can configure this list is under Configuration, Resources, General, eTask Statuses. So you can edit the code table as needed. And what some customers do, I've seen them where they'll have like 1, 2, 3, 4. When they go edit these, let me get out of here and let me go into Alma. Oh, let me bump this up for you too. Hold on. Boom, boom. There we go. Resources. No, it's ACK. One of these is in acquisitions and one is in, hold on. Let me use my favorite cheater thing. If I hit Control-Alt-F, it brings up the search window. There we go. It is under resources. It's not under acquisitions. So here it is. See, check access, not yet online, access confirmed, proxy. You can change these descriptions all you want. That's if you want to put numbers in. If you want to reorder them, you just use these little arrows to bump them up and bump them down. So I highly recommend you customize this list and utilize it. Okay. Another thing about activation tasks, they are going to remain on your list until you mark them as done. So when you get through all those steps, the last step to do is come to the row action menu, and choose done. At that point, the activation task will no longer be active and it will go away from your task list. So that's very important. Alma was intentionally designed to do that. So that's no accident. So just remember the last step after you've done whatever your checks are, go in, mark it as done. Now we're going to get into the real work here. We're going to talk about activating electronic resources. We're going to do portfolios and then collections. So we're going to first talk about activating a portfolio. I used to get this confused in my head a lot. What's the difference between a title, a collection, a portfolio? If you look at the bottom line of this slide, think of a portfolio as an item record for an electronic resource because it has all this detail in it, like an item record of a physical resource. The item record of a physical resource has, like, it's linked to a purchase order, has a receiving date, has a barcode, has notes, has statuses. A portfolio, it has specific coverage. Like if this were a journal, 2004 to current, 2004 to 2012, whatever. Linking information, all that is at that portfolio level. Who the provider is, because that linking information comes from that provider. An electronic portfolio could be linked to a serial bib record or a monograph bib record or a video bib record. So different material types, but just it's that base level item record for an electronic resource. When you go to activate a portfolio, it's very simple. From the task list, you locate the title, the portfolio, and you just click activate, confirm you're ready to activate the service, and you are done. So let's go do that. Get here into Alma. Let me get into my task list. Let's get back to the home screen. Here's my task list for electronic resources. I'm going to go to activation unassigned. Here's my example sheet from last week. I did alpaca and llama health management. Come on, let's get in here. That was my electronic one-time order. So I've got I've got 35. Can I scroll down? Absolutely, but I can search by PO line. I could search by title. I'm going to search by title. Here it is, alpaca and llama health management. It has that first status. Here are those statuses here. Okay. So if I want to activate this, oh, and it also has an interested user. We're going to talk about that in just a moment. Okay. So I would just, from the row action menu, I choose activate. I'm about to activate the service. Are you sure? Yep, I sure am. Confirm. I'm done. It's activated. So if I'm really done, I could just hit cancel and go on. I'm going to click confirm because I just want to take a look at this electronic portfolio with you. Okay, so if I open this up, I've opened up the electronic portfolio. Here's a link out to the bib record. We just did a single title. We didn't buy a whole collection. We made it available. You can see the little radio button here next to available. It was an ebook. You can assign an electronic material type if you wish, completely up to you, and there's nothing wrong with it. It is available. The main library owned it. This all comes from the purchase order line. It's part of a selective package. I bought that one title. Okay. Under linking, because when I ordered this, I went from the portfolio, not the title level. That's where that linking came in. Maybe you need to set the proxy for this. This is where you can do it right here in the portfolio. Only because this is a standalone portfolio, not part of a collection. For coverage, this is an ebook. So there's, there's not much here in the coverage. You get access to the whole book. If this were a journal, we would see years. We would see, what the vendor has said, what the coverage is, and if you had negotiated something different than that standard coverage, you could update it to add local or combine global and local coverage dates. That possibilities here. Under acquisition, this is linking back to the PO line. You could add a license here. We talked about licenses in the very first session. They're helpful, they're useful. There's something you might want to look at after you get Alma acquisitions going. I wouldn't worry about it right off the bat, but put it on your to-do list. Notes, there are notes all over Alma. Authentication note, public note, internal description, or these would be notes that just your staff sees down here. A lot of times notes are searchable. I'd have to go look at the advanced search to see exactly what fields. Some note fields show up in analytics. Just depends. Related portfolios. For this one, I don't have any because I bought this as a single title. If this were part of a collection and I'd purchased the collection and Alma recognized that these were all related, those related portfolios would show up on this tab. And then our history. All throughout Alma, we see all that history. When something was done, who did it, what fields they changed, and what the old and new information was. So not a bad idea to go look at your electronic portfolio editor, see what's in there. Okay, so I'm going to close this. Now, I just activated that, right? The status is still check access. You see it's still an open task because I haven't marked it done. And maybe I do need to check the proxy. So I'm going to say access is confirmed. I'm going to change that status. And so now I see access confirmed, and I know I still have a little bit more work to do. So I'm not going to mark this as done. When I do, it's just you're under the row action menu and you click done. So that was activating a single portfolio. Let's go back. Now we're going to talk about activating a collection. So an electronic collection, a collection of electronic resources, that's a package of electronic portfolios. So sets of portfolios, they might be an aggregator package. So in an aggregator package, when I buy this package, I get everything in it. If they add titles to it, I get that. If they drop some titles, they drop off. There's no selection involved. If you have a selective package, in that situation, when you buy that package, you are purchasing a subset of the entire package. You might be purchasing 5 of the portfolios, 10, 20, 30, I don't know, whatever materials you choose in that package. So that's a selective package. Alma does also have databases, and databases don't have full text access like aggregator and selective packages do. So we're activating aggregator and selective packages. That's the workflow we're talking about in this presentation, in this session. The way you activate a collection, it starts the same way you did with the portfolio. You locate the resource, the collection in the task list, click the row action menu and click activate. And then Alma's going to push you through an activation wizard. Now, the next few slides is talking about some specific decisions that you make. And I'm going to go through the activation wizard and talk about these, okay? So I'm going to go back in here into Alma, and my electronic collection was his ProQuest Historical Newspaper South China Morning, I believe. We like these. You know, I may have had a hard time finding that. This was last week. Okay. I think I had a hard time finding that collection. So I'm just going to come here and click hello, is that it? View edit. Let's come down to this one. There we go. Activate. That one must have been activated. So the Scotsman is the one I'm going to do. Okay. So now this is walking us through the wizard. What do we see here? At the very top, this is talking about the electronic collection itself. The electronic collection is called ProQuest Historical Newspapers, The Scotsman. It has 4 portfolios, 4 titles in here. Now, a lot of our customers suppress this record of the collection because your users are typically, they're searching the portfolios, not the collection name. Now, some people say, oh, my reference librarians want the collection name turned on. Okay, go ahead, turn it on. Then that will be discoverable in when you search in Discovery. So that's completely up to you. Typically, we don't need to set the proxy at the collection level because all it is doing is setting the proxy of the collection, not of the service. And the service you're paying for is full text service. You want that article level metadata. You want those links to come from articles, not the title, not to go in and search the Scotsman after you go in there. You want to lean on the article data that's in the CDI. When your users find it, one link takes them straight to the article. So that is why we don't typically activate the collection. Typically, this record is suppressed, no need to set the proxy here. The next section here is talking about the Central Discovery Index. We subscribe to only some titles in this collection. Is that true? No, it's not. This is an aggregator package. We get all of the titles. So I'm going to leave this no. Do not show as full text available in CDI. So if you're searching in Discovery, including CDI search results, do you want Alma to not show this content as if it's available? We're going to leave this unchecked because we want it to show. In a few slides, we're going to talk about why you might want that checked. So we're going to come back to this topic, okay? When we get down here into the service, this is, it's a full text service. That is what the provider, your vendor, is offering with this subscription. We do want to activate the service. We do want to make the service available. And because this is an aggregator package, we do want to automatically activate new portfolios. If this were a selective package, I would not check that box. But if an additional portfolio gets added to this aggregator package, the beauty of it is if you check this last box and it's an aggregator package, when the vendor adds titles or takes titles away, they tell us, we update it in the community zone, and your portfolios are automatically updated. So your access is accurate, faster, so your users won't hit dead links, and they'll have the newest stuff as soon as it's loaded into the community zone. So that's really a benefit to you. I want to give you one other little hint. If you look at our documentation, it says to not check this second box, and then you have to come back and do it later. But I polled a handful of our customers that are actually working in Alma Act, and they said they just check it off the bat and they don't go back and it adds more steps. So just check it now, move right on through the process. So now we're talking about linking information. Some vendors need additional parameters because this parameter would be part of the link. ProQuest has a client ID, and it's either a 5 or 6 digit customer number. I think Gale has something called LOC, LOC _ ID. And I think EBSCO doesn't have parameters, or I might have that backwards. I get those confused. So depending on the vendor, you might not, depending on the vendor where you're getting the subscription, you might not have any parameters. So this isn't an always thing. Now, this is that proxy at the service level, the full text service level. So if this needs a proxy, you would hit yes, and then choose your proxy. Now, because you have a parameter, this all, again, depends on the provider, depends on the linking. Maybe because you have a customer name, you don't need a proxy. So that's just dependent on the individual product, the individual resource to which you're subscribing. Now we are ready to select which portfolios need to be activated. So in this situation, because it's an aggregator package, we're activating the complete electronic collection and all of its portfolios. If this were a selective package, I might choose one of these other options. I could activate the electronic collections via an Excel file upload, and it would literally just be an Excel file of ISBNs or ISSNs or a combination of those things. Or you could do a manual activation, and I would only do that if you have a very small number of portfolios to select. Don't do that if you have a bunch. And that Excel file upload, if you get a KBART file from your vendor, you got it. You've got the information you need. Moving through the wizard, this is like your last chance to bail out of this job because this is going to run a job. The service is full text. We're going to be activating 4 portfolios plus the electronic collection plus the service. That's those 2. And you click activate. This is a small collection. It's going to run very quickly. And this activation task has moved from the unassigned tab to my tab right here, assigned to me. Now, again, I could release it. That would push it back to the unassigned tab. I could change the status here. Let's say not yet online. I'll leave it there because maybe I have more checks to do. But I've worked through the activation task wizard. Let's jump back into the PowerPoint. These slides are just talking through each selection I made that I called out to you. The next few slides. Activating the service, making it available, automatically activate new portfolios, the additional parameters that some vendors might need, the proxy set at the service level, and then selecting your portfolios. Now, I made the choices I made in the activation wizard because this was an aggregator package. It was a set of journals with a full text service level. So if it's a selected package, I might choose something different. If it's an ebook or a combination book and journal package, I might make some other changes, some other selections through the wizard. This slide is talking about what if this would have been a selective package. That first setting, we subscribe to only some titles in this collection. I would have said, yes, some titles. If it's journals, I would still not check this box, do not show as full text available, even if you have it activated in Alma. And still activating the service, make the service available, but not automatically activating new portfolios because it's selective. If you buy more portfolios, you'll activate them. Also, and then that last, when we said that activation type, that last choice we made, if I have that Excel file, I'm going to choose that second option, or if it's a very small set of portfolios, I might choose that third option. Now, I want to call your attention back to one particular setting that do not show as full text available in CDI, even if it's active in Alma. Why would you even consider checking that? Why would you say don't show something is available? So here are a couple of scenarios. One is, let's say you have some open access collections and you don't want them crowding up your resources in discovery and cluttering your resources because you'd rather have your users see the stuff you're paying for before they go to the open access stuff. This is a personal choice. There's not a wrong answer here, but just to be aware of what that setting will do, okay? Another situation is if you are doing, let's say this is a collection of ebooks and you leave this checked and you are in discovery and you do a search, not a filtered search, but an expanded search of things you own and don't own. No, I guess it's still on the filtered. Because it's still a filtered search. So you do a search and discovery of things you own or subscribe to. You could get duplicates in your results because Alma's going to give you information about these ebooks and the CDI is. So you could have duplicates in there. Some of our customers are like, the more the merrier. That's fine. I don't mind it. Some people don't like those duplicates, so they can check that box, and what it'll do is it'll turn off the CDI showing as full text available. Your results from Alma will show. The downside of this, so this is the last sentence here. If you do this and there is chapter level metadata out in the Central Discovery Index, it will not show. So you're losing something, okay? So here's a link to that documentation. This all being said, this is a situation we've been working on and we're going to be correcting it sometime in Q4 of this year. So keep your eye on the release notes for us to fix that. So maybe you say, they're going to fix it anyway. If it's ebooks, just check it anyway and let it roll because it's going to happen pretty soon. Okay, but I want to make sure you have the link. I wanted you to be on the lookout for that updated functionality. I'm pretty sure it's going to be driven at correcting this second situation. So you still can have the chapter level metadata and not have the duplicates. Okay, that's a lot of time on that one topic, but I think it's important to know. How are we doing on time? Okay, now let's move into receiving physical resources. Okay, long and short here, again, create a workflow that works for your institution. Okay. When you go to receive items, you need to be at a receiving department. And so in the Alma menu up at the very top right, I'm logged into the tech services department. That ACT department we made is a receiving department. You can, if you like, make your CERT desk a receiving department. Why would you want to do that? I've got two scenarios why you might want to do that. One, maybe you're an institution with a single Alma institution with centralized acquisitions and multiple libraries, and acquisitions does all the ordering for serials and such, but the serials go directly to the libraries. So in that case, you could have that CERT desk at those libraries configured to be a receiving department, and they can receive their own serials. Because those serials go directly to those libraries. The benefit is there's no need for the staff to toggle between locations. They can just do everything at the CERT desk. They don't have to toggle between an ACT desk and a CERT desk. The second scenario is maybe you're a small library and you do it all, or you're one of those small libraries that operates kind of independently in a larger Alma institution. And again, your staff does it all. It does acquisitions, it does cataloging, it does CERC. By making that CERC desk a receiving location, all the work can be done at that CERC desk. Again, it's going to save your staff time toggling between those two things to do their work. So those are just options you have. Okay. So you're in a receiving department. You go to the receiving workbench, which is under acquisitions, receiving and invoicing, receive. And I want to point out there's a one-time tab and a continuous tab. So the one-time is for our one-time orders. The continuous tab is for our subscriptions. Above those little tabs, you see something here called Keep in Department. Excuse me. There's this Keep in Department checkbox and a drop-down menu. If you have not done any configuration on this in your system, you're going to see three items here. You're going to see copy cataloging, physical processing, and temp storage. This list has been configured a little bit more. You can change this list. You can change the wording. You can change the order. You can do whatever you need to this list. Actually, it's in alphabetical order. Yeah, it shows up alphabetical order, I think. So you can update these options here, and you can add or take away options. This is the whole benefit, or I'm sorry, the whole point of these, this list, these statuses, is so that you can put your hands on materials that are back in tech services. So if I click Keep in Department and I receive items, Alma is going to open up an acquisitions work order. That ACT work order that we saw in the first week when we were talking about configuration. So I've placed my order. Alma already made my inventory. On the item record, the process type is called acquisitions. When you receive it, if you mark Keep in Department, the process type will turn into acquisition tech services, and then that status will show. This status is only for the staff. Again, it's to help you put your hands on materials that are back in your tech services department. Okay. This talks about, here's your under config, general, work orders and departments, work order types, ACT work order, manage statuses. That's where you can update that list. Okay. Again, don't make things more complicated. Don't put more statuses than you need, but make them work for you. I'm ready to receive some one-time orders. I'm on my receiving workbench. I'm on my one-time tab. I'm verifying my keep in department setting. I'm going to find my items. I'm going to locate my items, and I either can use the row action menu and click receive, or I can check these boxes over here and click receive up in the menu. Either way, does the same thing. So let me go into Alma, under acquisitions, receive. Okay, I'm at my receiving workbench. I need my examples here. So let's see. I'll just do, so I want keep in department, and keep in department and the tab you're on is sticky from the last time you were in here. I was in here earlier today doing my other presentation. So I'm keeping in department. I'm leaving this at copy cataloging. My title, Fundamentals of Modern. Oh, I have a little typo. I have a new keyboard. Still getting used to it. It's fancy. There we go. So this is my my resource. I'm going to just click receive. I'm going to go to my next one, practical electronics for inventors. Here this is. So I could also click that box and click receive. So these disappear from this tab. The receiving process has been activated. They will no longer show on this list because they have been received. And my filters are saying, don't show me the stuff that's already brought in the house. So that's receiving one-time orders. Very straightforward. Now, let's talk about continuous orders. Oh, this is talking about what happens if the keep in department box was not checked. If you don't check that box and you receive an item, Alma says the item is in place immediately. Alma thinks it's on the shelf. Okay. If keep in department was checked, the base status of the item still says item not in place. It's got that work order on it, and it's back in tech services, awaiting further cataloging, processing, etc. Remember how we saw that interested user check mark? We saw it on an electronic resource. You could have them also on print resources. You'll see that green check mark up here. Let's go take a quick look. I didn't look for that when I was in here. So you see this column here, interested users. Okay, that one was marked rush. Yeah, I don't see any on this. And I could filter here. So if anything has an interested user, it has this little check mark. So this might be your hint to fast track these materials because someone's waiting for them. Because Alma, as long as when you added them as an interested user, you told Alma, put a hold on this, then Alma's going to take over from there. Okay, I'm going to turn this off. Let's go back to our PowerPoint. So just a little bit of information about that. Now let's talk about continuous orders or subscriptions. So at this point, my question to you is, if you receive subscriptions, serials, journals, whatever, when you receive those, do they need little to no processing? Maybe you put a barcode on them, maybe you put a property stamp on them, and you get them out to the shelf. If you do little to no processing, I always recommend not checking keeping in department. The item, Alma will put it on the shelf immediately, but you're going to get it out there pretty quick, and it'll save you having to scan. And if you don't barcode, you can't scan it. So generally for serials, don't check keep in department. So you'll go to the continuous tab, you'll uncheck keep in department, and then you receive them. So, and I'm going to show you that. I'm going to show you, we do have two methods of receiving. During this series, I'm only going to show you ad hoc. I'm not going to talk about pub patterns. That's a whole nother hour. What happens with ad hoc receiving? Item records are created at the time of receipt. Right now, there is no item record in Alma for continuous orders. Alma will make it as we say we received it, so when it's in our hands. The frequency of the issues, the frequency up for this subscription is set in the subscription interval field from the PO line under vendor information, because this goes back to claiming. Alma can still claim even with ad hoc serials because of this setting here. If you're receiving via the ad hoc method, Alma says if it's monthly, you put in 30. If it's bi-monthly, you put 60, quarterly, 90, on down the line. So Alma can still claim for you because it's looking for that. I'm ready to receive a subscription or continuous order. I'm at my receiving location. I'm on the continuous tab. I've verified my keep in department settings. All I need to do is search and receive. Let's get over here into Alma. Continuous tab. Remember that's sticky. Uncheck that one. My print continuous. Oh, it's brain. It's this very first one. I don't even have to go searching for it. Okay. So what do I need to do? I'm going to click receive. Now, the very first issue you receive, Alma's not going to do a lot of work for you, but the second one, it'll help. I promise, I promise. Let's say this is volume 37. Let's say it's still July. So I'm going to put 7. And I'm going to say 2021, because chronology I is year and J is month. We'll do July. Oops, let me make sure I spell it right. So I need to fill in my enum and chron information and click generate. Alma takes this enum and chron information and puts it in this description field. If you are a library that barcodes these resources as they come in, you click receive and set barcodes. If you do not barcode these items, just click create and receive. So this is dependent on what your library does. If I were to receive and set barcodes, one more window would pop up where I can scan in the barcode. Okay, I'm done. I'm going to click back, check in the rest of my materials. Now the next issue shows up. Okay, so the second issue shows up. Here's my title. I'm going to come back in here. I'm going to click receive. Now this time, because I've already received an issue, I just click duplicate. I change this to 8. Change this to August. I click generate. Done. Do it right from here too. Receive new items, duplicate, update, generate. Done. So that is ad hoc receiving. Duplicate, update, generate, receive. Very quick. Claiming still happens. Some people, that's the only receiving method they use. If you want to get into pub patterns, you can do that as well. I'd start out with just this for now. So this next slide is just talking about clicking receive on the row action menu, fill in the enumeration and chronology, click generate, and then use either of these boxes depending on your local practices. And then this is talking about when that next issue comes in. Duplicate, update, generate. I want to talk a little bit about this description field. The description field here transfers to that item record that gets created. And the description field is what tells Alma that this item is unique compared to other items attached to that shared holding record. So if this were a multi-volume set, that's where volume 1, volume 2, volume 3 is, so that if someone places a hold, Alma knows they have to tell me which item they want. Same thing with serials. Data in this description field says I am unique. I'm not like my friend sitting next to me on this holding record. So that's the importance of it. Okay. The formatting of this, the V period space, and then it pulled in the enumeration A, space, NO period space, and it pulled in enumeration B on down the line. That comes from description templates, which is under the configuration menu, resources, general description templates. And I'm going to show you one of my, and I'm not going to get really, I just don't have the time. Resources, general description templates. Okay. When you're in here, if you're making these and you go, what the heck was she talking about? Don't forget, you go up to the help screen, help for this page. Okay. That brings you right to the doc, talking about creating description templates, what you might want to do, spacing, etc. Okay. So it's a good piece of doc to help you through that step. Another setting you can do in Alma, you can set your item sort routines. So the order that those items appear, you can have a default set for discovery. Maybe you want that in descending order. So the newest issue appears at the top of the list as you receive them. You know, November will be on top of October, will be on top of September on down the line. Maybe when you're looking at the physical resource editor items list, maybe you want that ascending, maybe you want that descending. And then the acquisitions receiving items on the receiving workbench. That one applies more if you are using pub patterns than ad hoc. But those are the settings. And again, under config, resources, general, physical item sort routines. And I'm a big fan, if you do this, I'm a big fan of searching on enumeration and enumeration over chronology. Because enumeration, that's, you know, your volume issue numbers, where chronology, if you're, you know, it's alphabetical and months aren't alphabetical if you're writing them out. Okay. So let's now talk about standing orders. If you have standing orders, oops, excuse me, there we go. They're actually not received via the receiving workbench. We just have that bib as a suppressed bib attached to the PO line. So no inventory was created when the standing order was made. And I'm thinking like an analyze series that gets its own unique bib holding workflow. There's no shared bib in this series. So what needs to happen is when the materials are received, they end up, you know, going to cataloging. Cataloging will create the metadata record or download it wherever they're going to get it, create the inventory, the holding in the item. And then from the item, you can link back to the PO line so you know it's part of that PO line. It'll still get invoiced the same way as always. But who's going to do this and when this happens is it's part of that workflow you need to develop, because you still want that tracking to know that this came off this PO line and this is how much you paid for it. And you don't want to lose that information. So this is just a screenshot of that part of an item record, and you just click this little link right here to go to the PO line. You might want to fill in a receiving date too, because that's good information to have so you know when this walked in the door. Receiving dates are going to fill in on everything you receive, so it's a good idea to make that part of your practice for standing orders. Long story short, work with your cataloging and processing folks to make sure that everything's happening that needs to happen. one more caveat, whenever you make inventory into MD Editor, Alma says it's in place. It was just like when we received those issues, we didn't keep it in department. Alma thinks it's on the shelf. So this is again part of the workflow. Depending on how long it would take those materials to get out to the shelf, how eager people are to find them, you might need to create an ACK work order to get them off the shelf and back into tech services. You want that shelf status to be accurate and people, your users, your staff to be able to find resources easily. Got 4 minutes till the top of the hour. Let's talk about claims. So claims in Alma, again, they're going to show up on a claim list, okay? How does that data get filled in? We talked about this a little bit earlier. Delivery and claim information fields in the vendor account record so this is from the vendor account record, populate the vendor information fields on a PO line. If nothing is here, it's not going to get populated down here. And then it's not going to go to claims. So you want something in there. And even if you put a default value and something needs to change, you can always edit here. That's not a problem. But having a default value is a good idea. Alma runs a job every night to say, hey, is this late? Is this late? And then if their things aren't here, PO lines have not been received, what happens? They end up on a claims list. Under acquisitions, purchase order line claims, or in the task list under order lines with claims, or the task menu up here, order lines with claims. Remember, you need to be a purchasing manager or a purchasing operator to work on these claims. I like to point out when you open up the claim list, take a look at those facets, okay? Because you can drill down a lot. Oh, for a particular library, from a particular vendor, for a particular purchase type. Note the purchase types, electronic purchase types also show up in here. Those are those activation tasks. So if they've gone to it's too late, past due date, they're going to show up on your claims list here as well. But if you just take care of the activation task, it'll disappear from this list. So if it gets taken care of, it goes away from this list. Maybe that's just going to remind you, oh my gosh, I got to go activate that, and you're done. So the job that runs on your system is called PO line claiming process automation. You cannot enable this job. If you need it enabled, just open up a case with support or use the chat or whatever. I haven't done the chat yet, but I know we have chat support now. We can turn that on in your system for you. I put this link in here because I've been working with our doc team and the business analyst to clear up a little something in here. It's just talking about the settings of auto claims. Alma by default does auto claiming for you. So Alma will send those claims for you. If for some reason you don't want Alma to send those claims, you can do it manually. You could still have the claims generated, but they're manual. Oh, darn it. And I want to go into this link because I want to show you. Come on. I want to show you what I'm working on. And earlier today, it wasn't updated yet. So I know that we're working on it. So we're talking about PO line claiming. For one-time PO lines, if the claim is sent automatically to the email in the vendor record, that's who it would go to, or via EDI. If the auto_claim customer parameter is set to yes. For continuous PO lines, it's sent automatically. There's a different setting, auto_claim_CO for continuous. Okay, if that's set to yes. Now, if auto_claim_CO is set to no, a task is generated, but the claim is not sent. What I'm asking for confirmation on is if you could set auto_claim as no also, and the same thing happens. No claim is sent, but it shows up on a task. Because I know some people like to do the communication themselves. So we're working on clarification of that piece of doc. But I just wanted to point out what's here. Let me close that. Okay, let's get back here. So Alma supports automatic claims processing by default, but they can be generated manually. Claims can be sent via email. It goes to that email record, that email address in your vendor record, or via EDI. We're going to talk more about EDI in session 5 of our series. And then this is another good piece of doc because it talks about how claims are generated, whether they're continuous, how it's looking at the claim grace period, etc. So that's a good piece of doc to look at when you're digging into claims a little bit more. When you process claims, what can you do? Something's late. What can you do? You can change the expected date in the row action menu of the claim task. So if you get a message back, oh, now we expect it on this date, you can update that information. If you get a response from a vendor, you can also add that into Alma. Responses don't come back automatically into Alma, but if you get a response, you edit the purchase order line, you go into the communications tab, from the row action menu, you add a response. So they've told you something, you can put it in there. And maybe you're going to be doing both. Maybe you're going to be changing the expected due date and adding the response. Let's go take a look. Get out of config, acquisitions, claims. So here's my claim list where I pointed out all those electronics too. So I go to like a print book OneTime, print journal subscription, whatever. Here's that option to change the expected due date. Just changing a note, maybe that's all you need. Okay. Or if I click on edit, this opens up that PO line. Go to the communications tab. This is that outgoing message that Alma sent for me. Add a response. I can, put something in here. I can even put an attachment. Maybe they sent us something. And then everything's in Alma. It's not sitting in your email. It's not sitting on your desk. It's in Alma for you. Lean on that functionality. How did we get back there? There we go. Claims. Claims. Okay, so that's talking about the things you can do. The last section is resources. You've seen this slide before also. Our Knowledge Center, also shortened to the CKC for Customer Knowledge Center. That's all of our documentation. There's no passwords on it. Anyone can get there. Once you're in there, go to Alma, Product Documentation, Alma Online Help, Acquisitions. We also made a LibGuide for acquisitions because there's a lot of data on acquisitions, so that LibGuide is helpful. And remember, all of our doc is indexed in Google as well. Easy to find. Just type in Alma and what you're looking for. Whew. So that's the end of this session. This is session 3. Next week, we're going to be talking about invoicing resources. We're also going to dip just a little bit into those acquisitions work orders and getting items out of the ACT department. So we're going to talk about that. Those are going to be our 2 topics for next week, next Wednesday or Thursday, depending where you are in the world. This is just a link back to the series, this dashboard about the series. I put that in earlier. I'm going to put it in again, copy, paste, just in case you weren't here. Boom. We do have, my team does these trainings that are, free, available for everyone around the world. We do offer premium services. If you need more individualized help, there is a cost for these fees, but we do have a team that works through specific things for you, specific questions, etc. Thank you so much. I appreciate your time. I appreciate your attention. When this session is over, a survey will pop up on your screen, and I do read all your results. You know, I read your responses and suggestions and try to work them in to my my future presentations. So I appreciate it. I don't see any questions coming in. I've kept an eye on chat this whole night. Thanks so much. I hope you have a good rest of your day or evening, and we'll see you next week.